Congrats to the Florida State Seminoles for getting the win over Virginia Tech to remain in the hunt to get to a bowl game. But that does not dismiss the notion that Mike Norvell needs to be fired.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles for this live edition after the Florida State victory over Virginia Tech. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles a part of your day each and every day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one place for you to get all of your podcasting sports info, college football, basketball, anything you want right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. We're going to be reacting to Florida State playing pretty good overall to get a win against a team they should beat. They did the things that, honestly, I predicted they wouldn't. They were clutch in some key situations. They didn't beat themselves. They found a way when they were just kind of getting by to make the play. And above all else, because it's the honorable thing to say and do, congrats to the seniors. I know it has not been the ride you probably wanted, but you just had an opportunity to play in Doak Campbell Stadium for your last time. Thank you for operating in an efficient manner when necessary on senior day. Good for you guys. Go out with a win. That's awesome. Noles get the dub 34-14. Today's show, I'm going to talk about Florida State versus their peers, where we're at in college football. We're going to get to that. Is this a situation where Florida State's a little better than we thought, or where are they? We're going to get to that later in the show. We're also going to talk about the obvious. This does not in any way, shape, or form change the fact that Mike Norvell needs to be fired. Period. That does not come off the table no matter what. He must be fired. But up front, this first segment, I'm going to give credit because it's deserved. Florida State held Virginia Tech to 14 points. And there's some really weird stats. And I know it's college football, and we have some odd things that happen all the time. But I'm going to give you a few here. This was from early fourth quarter, I believe. Let me find the stat to make sure that I am correct. But fourth quarter, 12 minutes and 5 seconds left. I'm just going to read this off to you for some stats and just show you how weird it is. Florida State's up 24-7 at the time. 24-7. And at that point, the Noles have been outgained 322-311, so it's pretty comparable. And Virginia Tech's getting ready to score, but still, they had given up to Virginia Tech 224 rushing yards and given up 7 points. That is the definition of clutch. They didn't do well grinding it out, beating up on Virginia Tech, and Virginia Tech even had 40 yards on the very first carry. Not ideal. But the Noles did really good at bowing up inside the red zone, something that they've honestly not done enough of this year. That was one of their few redeeming qualities last season. They've had some moments this year, but it's not been great. And then for them, they ran the ball okay, despite Tommy not being a quote-unquote stud at it. He's not the same Tommy, but he did look a little better tonight. He's healthier than he has been. Give them credit. So, but here's the stat again. With 12 minutes and 5 seconds to go, you've been outgained. And on third downs, if I'd have told you with 12 minutes to go in the game, Virginia Tech was 7 out of 9 on third downs. Everybody in this chat, while they may not have typed it, would have been cussing or something similar. Because 7 out of 9 is awful to give up. I mean, it's horrific. But again, when they'd get down to the red zone, they couldn't do it. Really random stat right there. The other part, Florida State defenses for both teams. With 12 minutes to go, the Noles were 7 out of 10 on third down themselves. So offensively good, defensively pretty awful. They were physical. They got out physical in some ways. And Virginia Tech's passing game, I'll just go ahead and say this. Kyron Drones didn't get any better after his first year start. In the last 2 years, he hasn't gotten an ounce better as a passer. Tonight, Florida State ate him alive. This was a game I knew that they were going to struggle throwing the ball because he can't read defenses that well. And Florida State runs a whole bunch of different things schematically with zone coverage and the safeties moving around. You ready for his stat line? With this was with 12 minutes to go and whatnot. Then I'll go over, you got to throw it now. You got to throw it now. We're behind. We'll go over the ladder. 8 out of 13 with 90 for 98 yards in a pick with 12 minutes to go. Okay. Now, here are the stats, the final stats for him. It didn't get much better. They had to throw it, right? You think they get quite a few yards in garbage time? Kyron Drones, Florida State's defense just held him in check. He threw 5 more passes, completed 2 for a combined 27 yards. Nobody cares. Had a couple of decent passes, but to hold a veteran quarterback, this is the 3rd year he's been a starter, to 125 yards passing, that's often the Noles. I know Tony White's come under fire, and by all accounts, I'm one of them. But to hold a team to 125 yards passing, a P14, is really impressive. It is. These defensive rushing stats are horrendous, but I don't know. They held them to 14. This is one of the weirdest stat lines ever. 41 carries for the Hokies, 238 yards rushing, but they scored 14 points. And the other thing, they only had 2 turnovers. It wasn't like they had a 5 turnover night. The Noles were better, and they didn't have any turnovers. That was probably the most redeeming quality, and they did a good job. But on the offensive side, this is where it's fun. And congrats to Tommy. He missed a couple throws that could have been touchdowns. He didn't let himself get 2 down. He missed a couple that should have been scores. We all know that. I'll get anybody that wants to throw darts at Tommy for that, go ahead. He missed, but he played hard. He was 12 of 24, 189 yards and a score. Not bad. Running the ball, 7 carries, 2 touchdowns, and 45 yards rushing. That touchdown that got him into the 30s, that was a heck of a run, by the way, by Tommy. But they ran a bunch of different guys. Chroma, 11 carries for 59 yards. Singleton, 14 carries for 53 yards. Castellanos, he was 7 carries for 45 yards. Sawchuk had 3 carries for 11 yards. And they even, like Lucas had 2 for 10. Cam Davis got back in the lineup, 2 for 8. Keziah Holmes, 1 for 8. Pittman was obviously the goal line guy. He had a touchdown, 3 for 8. They really spread it around quite a bit. It was kind of interesting. I'm not sure what the reason is for so many all of a sudden, but that's what they did. Offensively for the night, Noles with 431 yards, 34 points. They weren't super efficient when they were down there, but they were 7 out of 11 on 3rd downs and 1 for 1 on 4th down. I mean, Virginia Tech is not great on defense by any means, but those are impressive numbers. And again, at senior day, I want to give all the kudos to them for it. Before I go to break, I want to read off a couple of comments, and thank you to everybody that's in the chat. I will do a whole bunch of this because at the end, when I talk about, for those of you that are listening to this later on my stat sheet here up front on today's show, it says, it's got all the notes, FSU versus peers. We're going to read a lot of stuff from the chat and compare Florida State, where they're at as a program compared to other programs. Florida, Miami, Georgia, the schools you recruit against and play against. We're going to talk about that later, but I want to get a few in here right out of the gate. First one in the whole thing. Milt Lester, hey, ho, ho. Mike Norvell has to go. Samuel Gibson, sloppy game to me. It is. But they were just more clutch. Florida State's defense was not great, but it bowed up when necessary. Samuel Gibson, Deuce had a B-plus game. He didn't play perfect, but he had some pretty interesting catches. Obviously, the opportunity for a couple along the sideline. I mean, you take your pick on how you want to look at those, but he's had such a good year. I'm not going to really pick on Deuce. Samuel Gibson, doesn't Mike look like I'll just say he doesn't look like Mike on the sidelines. I think he knows he's out of here at the end of the year. I think he really knows that. Mike didn't seem as enthusiastic. I did notice that. That's an interesting point. And to that end, do you care at this point? I mean, he still coached and they had a good game plan and all that, but he does seem a bit subdued today. I'll give you credit for noticing that. FJB 35-44. Tommy throws at 2 receivers all night. Defense still getting gashed and no pressure on quarterback. Some of what you're talking about there, FJB, is very simple. Missed recruiting opportunities. They've been horrible at recruiting pass rushers because they've just relied on the portal. And they lost their 2 pass rushers from last year. One went to Oklahoma, one went to LSU. Okay. They didn't hit on the guys they brought in for the portal. They did bring in some younger guys that are good. Amari is somebody that's a good player, but to be honest, Looking at all the stats tonight, let's kind of look here. How many pressures were they given credit for? And you can take these for what it's worth. They had 2 quarterback hits. They had 1 sack. Ugh. That was by Mandrell Desir, a good recruit. But yeah, they didn't get after the quarter. And Virginia Tech's line's not very good either. That's a problem. Gosh, that's really kind of, you're bringing me down, man. You're bringing me down. It is what it is, but they were pretty bad. Kind of going through the list, just overall, I would say that Florida State's defense played hard, but missed run gap fits and tackling. Those were pretty obvious. Zuppa the God, good win, but the coach is still 3-13 in his last 15 ACC games. If making that 2-13 to 3-13 means he saved his job, the athletic director has got to go because there's no standard. Post of the day. That is great. We come back, we'll talk more about that and why Mike Norvell needs to be fired, because he should. They won, but I want to make this very clear. This is the most important part of the show. Norvell cannot be let off the hook just because they beat a bad Virginia Tech team without a coach. That is next here on Locked on Seminoles. Today's show is brought to you by DoorDash. We are to the weekend, all the college football action. It's been a blast. Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash, just so you can save on Saturday with DoorDash Streak, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. I want to give it to Deuce Robinson and all the senior players for the Noles. There are a bunch of them that quite honestly deserve credit for playing hard tonight. And I want to make sure they give credit. It's the last game they play in Doak Campbell. So all of those players plus Deuce, who I expect it to be his last game, even though it's not a senior, because he'll probably turn pro. Hats off to everybody there. And just like Deuce Robinson and several of the seniors for Florida State delivered, DoorDash delivers for your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. Save every Saturday when you order. Stack it up all season long so you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order with DoorDash. Keep the streak alive. Terms apply. Promo good through November the 18th. Thank you once again for making Locked on Seminoles your first listen each and every day. And we are on a live show reacting to Florida State's 34-14 win over Virginia Tech. But that does not in any way dismiss the number one notion. Mike Norvell still got to go. I don't want to hear anything. I don't want to hear any BS from the athletic department. No comments. None of that. I mean, if your social media team props up the players, by all means, that's fine. Zero. Under zero circumstances can Mike Norvell still be retained. I'm going to say that after next week's game against NC State and the week after against Florida. I do not care if Florida State wins at Florida 56-0, which they're not going to. But even if they did, Mike Norvell must be fired no matter what. I find the money. This is awful. It is terrible. You cannot be in this position. You're fighting for a bowl in year 6. You're fighting for a bowl after 2-10. And they won by 20. And again, some of these stats are just wild. But you gave up to a bad Virginia Tech team 238 yards rushing. 238. Tackling bad. Run gap fits bad. First play of the game, he gave up 40. You knew exactly who Virginia Tech was because they can't throw the football. And you still got beat up. Guys didn't quit. They played hard, but it's the same thing since the Stanford game. Between the ears, Florida State is not very good at being consistent with each other, meaning team football on defense. They run to the ball, but they also run to the wrong places. There were some holes that were opened up that while you got to give credit to Virginia Tech, and this is just the example on defense, trust me, I have plenty on offense to get to as well. It's just the wrong place that the guy's running to. Go back over the film, rewind it over and over again, just like you were a coach. Go watch the running plays for Virginia Tech in the first half. How many times was there a gap that was either A, just wide open, or B, you could tell somebody was late to get there? Half the reps? More? That's a lack of coaching. That's a lack of players caring what the coaching does. And Lord only knows what else in between. Fire Mike Norvell. If nothing else comes from this podcast that you take, note that I said it. I like to win. Under no circumstance can he be retained. Fire Mike Norvell. Are we clear? Everybody wants to quit me because I gave him credit in the first part of the show. Again, senior day, all that. I'm going to do that. Fire Mike Norvell. Now, with that, I want to get back in the chat and have some fun with it. No particular order here. We got a ton of stuff in the chat. Leave me your questions and comments. If I missed something, my apologies. But we're going to have some fun with this. Let's see here. V-Dubs. Yeah, this team is pretty painful to watch. No sugarcoating it. It is. They frustrate you because they'll make a great play. Not like good. A great play. Then the next one, miss run gap fit. Holding call. Stupidity with a personal foul or overthrow by Tommy. They miss on huge plays. Florida State should have scored 50 today. The two reasons they didn't. The defense couldn't get off the field. Virginia Tech was eating up clock and just missed big play opportunities. Drops, missed throws, penalties, mental errors / self-inflicted wounds. It is the definition of the Mike Norvell era. Let's find a way to beat ourselves. And they still won by 20. It's one of the weirdest games, if possible, in the Mike Norvell era. Samuel Gibson. I'm at 9-win team. Sorry for the above. Chat, no worries, brother. No worries. CP Tepic. I'm not sure what that is. Oh, joy. A Pop-Tart or Real Equist Bowl trophy. In my time, that's a participation trophy, but for grown men. That's actually true. That's how sad Florida State football is right now, though. We're not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. I'm going to tell it like it is. And I agree. That's at best a participation trophy. Mike Dinkinger. As much as I acknowledge that he and Travis Jordan pulled our program, Jordan Travis, I think is what he meant to say, pulled a program out of the dumpster, we feel right back into it even farther. I didn't see us dominate a fairly weak Virginia Tech team tonight. Giving up darn near 250 yards rushing, yeah, that is as far from dominating as you can be. Malik Stuckey. So what, we made a bowl? You guys are fake fans. They're not in a bowl yet. They haven't even made it to the bowl yet. I mean, I don't think. Is that 6 wins? If it is, that shows you how lackluster it's been. Like, this team is bad. This team is very bad. So to make it really, really safe for everybody to understand, I want them to get to a bowl for 2 reasons. It's more fun to cover. And secondarily, after they fire Mike Norvell, regardless if they make a bowl, you get all those practices. That's the number one reason I want Florida State to get to a bowl. But, I mean, let me see here. I don't know if I got time to look up all the bowl stuff, like all the tie-ins. And to be honest, it's pretty rough. It's pretty rough. They're at 5 wins, so they still got to win one of the last 2. But with all, with the ACC looking at it was another wacky day in the ACC. Shocker. I don't know where they would end up with the bowl win, with the win over NC State or Florida. Not sure, but it's not going to be a bowl anybody cares about. That's that much I was, pretty sure about anyhow. And thinking about it, nobody cares unless it's Orange Bowl or something big. This is Florida State. I was at the game tonight. Virginia Tech couldn't get a stop to save their life. Trash defense. True. Virginia Tech secondary in particular, this is what bothers me. Really banged up. Playing freshmen, sophomores, and Florida State couldn't do much against it. Tommy wasn't that accurate, and that's a problem. Let's see here. Mike Dunkinger. Agreed. Time is now. Talking about Mike being fired. Yeah, it is absolutely right now. Zachariah Pochel. Fire Mike Norvell. Yes, absolutely. Fire him today. It'd be great. S.K. Simmons. Castellanos missed so many throws early on. Yeah, he was long, man. His motion was inconsistent. It wasn't very good. It just wasn't very good. Zuppo, do you think we go 1-1 to make a bowl? Is it better to lose both, like Miami fans with Diaz, DeMario? That's a great question, but this is my thought. And I actually was thinking about this right before the show. So thank you for the question. In the chat from Zuppo the God, here's the deal. Again, as I noted a minute ago, there's no substituting for getting the young players full practice and all that stuff and kind of helping, for lack of a better phrase, to figure out which players that are currently on the roster are going to be on the next roster. I have no idea how fast Florida State will or will not switch the coaching staffs around. Old staff out, in staff, or new staff in. That stuff is not quick usually. That's unfortunate, but you at least get these young players practice time, and the guys that are quote unquote going haphazard that say they want to stay, they got to go. In practice, the people for the bowl game that are not doing it, they got to go. The next staff that comes in are given that list. They got to go. It is vital to make a bowl game for that reason. And I know some people are like, well, Brian, if they make a bowl, they might keep Mike. And here's the second part, because that's possible. But if that is case, then Florida State is toast for the foreseeable future anyway, because that means your leadership is garbage. Not bad, garbage. There is no shortcut here. Under no circumstance can Norvell be retained. None. Make the bowl. Let's see what happens with the practices. We'll hear stuff. And we'll see also what the January 2nd through the January 16th transfer portal window. Remember, it's the only one. There's no, especially this is bad for Florida State this year, but it is what it is. After spring ball, you are what you are. You have 100 injuries, too bad. You have no injuries, it's good for you. Maybe your competition has, but there's no fixing that. It's going to be a rough offseason for Florida State regardless. At least find out with the bowl practices who really wants to be there. I would run it like a spring. 100%. I would, if I was the coach leading it in the offseason for the bowl practices, let's say they don't have a head coach yet, and they start practicing and they make a bowl, they beat State or Florida, maybe both, who knows? I would do the first meeting with the following statement. Just so you know, if you're sticking around, the first practice is going to be full on like a spring practice, final scrimmage. I would start out that way. And if people didn't like it, that's fine. They can leave. Florida State is restarting their program in December. There's no shortcut on that either. Whether they want to or not, they are. I'm not saying you try to run guys off, but if you don't want to be a physical, here it is, we're coming after you kind of team, you're going to be gone. And the guys that are thinking about the portal, they're not going to want any part of those practices because this is the rule. I'm in the 7-on-7 world. I work with a 7-on-7 team. I know how this works. The guys that are thinking about getting in the portal will want no part of those practices. You know why? They want to be 100% healthy in case they get into the portal. And if they're banged up, nobody will take them. Either you're committed to play at Florida State or get out. Get out. That's it. So we'll see if they go that route. I'm assuming that some of the local media will get some intel on that. It'll get out. But you got to run hardcore practices if you make a bowl. It's not normal, but this isn't about the bowl game. It's about preserving the program and slowly rebuilding it. It's not the spot you want to be in, but that is exactly where FSU is. Malik Stuckey, we just won a game. We talking like man in out. Yeah, well, he stinks. I mean, there's no doubt. Let's see. I don't know what that's about. We were afraid. I don't know what UCL is. Let's see here. Mike Dinkinger. Remember when we were afraid UCLA was going to snag Tony White? Not so much now. Yeah, Tony ain't getting that job. Players just, they don't, maybe they don't want to learn his scheme, but there's too many mental errors. His scheme is not easy. It's a lot of zone. It's a lot of thinking. This team's not doing very well with it. Robert Backoff. Do you agree Tommy needs more quick reads over the middle, 5-10-yard completions to soften the box? No, and here's why. It's ironic that you said 5 to 10-yard completions because Tommy's about 5'10". The reason they don't throw to the middle is because of his height, in my opinion. I've been told that, But short quarterbacks don't throw over the middle much. That's why coaches prefer 6'5" quarterbacks. It matters. Every inch matters. Florida State and most college teams go out of their way. I'm never going to say it publicly, but from private conversations for 20 plus years, go out of their way to avoid the middle of the field because the opportunity for picks is just accentuated 2-3-fold. Deflections in particular, ball pops in the air, any idiot can catch a deflection that comes down in their arms. So they throw to the perimeter. Even the NFL does that. The Patriots under Tom Brady, by and large, avoided the middle of the field. Charlie Weiss, when he was OC, hated throwing in the middle of the field. But it's just because of the math. Unfortunately, I can't go against it because Tommy's not the most accurate guy anyway. V-dubs. It's sad that these last few teams, which are all bad teams, might be what saves this coach from being fired. Again, and I understand your perspective because I have thought about this as well. Very simple truth here. Very simple. If Mike Norvell is saved because they quote unquote made a bowl, Florida State is toast for the foreseeable future. They will be obliterated in the transfer portal and in recruiting if Mike Norvell is retained, even if they win out. If you guys had any idea what the conversations were like that I have with recruits, that I have with people in the industry, etc., about what they think of Florida State right now, it is so low, I can't even put it into perspective. And some of it is too touchy to talk about publicly anyway. He has to be fired. And I've had this conversation 1,000 times on this show. I understand it's a money problem. You got two options. It's going to be really, really bad or really, 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 really bad. There's no good here. It's going to be a slow rebuild. Do it anyway, because it's just going to be worse if he does it. By the way, I just remembered this. I'm sure many of you know who Bud Elliott is. Longtime Noel fan, Noel grad, runs the Noel cast, all that. He has publicly stated on air, because he's part of the Cover 3 pod, he will not do the Noel cast this next year if they retain Mike Norvell. That is bad. That puts it in perspective that Bud, guy I know, he's a blunt dude, would even consider that. He said it's no fun and there's no reason. Why would I just make myself miserable was kind of his theme. And I get it. If you're doing it as a fan thing, why would you? It's not fun. Thrawn 2028. Will James Franklin go to Florida State or Virginia Tech after this game? I don't know if Florida State's going after him. Not a clue. My guess is, based on what I have heard, that he is not one of the prime guys. That could change. It's possible. But I have no idea what to make of that. So, Mike, what's going on, Mike? How you doing? Appreciate you stopping in, sir. I'm going to do one more quick break here. Then we're just going to go through the chat, and we're going to talk about Florida State from a perspective of what's going on with their peers. This goes right back into the Mike Norvell discussion. And I want to put it in perspective. Again, I'm going to talk, I can't give specific names and all that, and I apologize, but there's no way around that with sources. But why Florida State has to fire Mike Norvell no matter what their money situation is. It is ugly. And that is also next here on Locked On Seminoles. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Let me get this off the screen here real quick. Can't have that on there. Can't have that on there. We can get rid of that. So today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps the game exciting, especially when your team's making a late push in the fourth quarter. And FanDuel gives new customers $300 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Head to FanDuel.com. Sign up with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, let's talk about why Florida State is in the spot they're in. You're a quote-unquote peer institutional school for football. What does that mean? There are certain schools you align yourself with, your rivals, and other teams that you want to beat if you make the playoff, etc. Think about the following list for it. And this was intentional. I thought this through several times. Tonight's the best time to do this. There are give or take 15 to 20 schools. I'm going to go through the list one by one. And when I say them, I'm going to pause. Think to yourself. And this is just straight yes or no. There's no gray. Yes or no. Is Florida State in a better situation than this school to win games right now with Mike Norvell as head coach as compared to, and again, I'm going to go through every one of these schools, compared to that school and their head coach. Just think to yourself. Everybody has their own opinion. Then I'm going to go through and give my opinion on all these schools. This is the bottom line, because Florida State should be conservatively a top 12 program in college football. That's very conservative. Obviously, they're not in the stratosphere of that. Okay, so you ready? Here we go. We'll start in the north, and I'm just going to work around from the east, back around, and all the way back around to Florida State and Florida schools. Penn State. I picked them on purpose. Why? Well, they obviously fired James Franklin, but they aspired to be great. They were number 2, I think, and then they had the losing streak real quick, and they fired him. That shows you how much commitment they have to winning. So, yes, it's strategic that I use them first. If you do not fire Mike Norvell when your peers, that's a school that you, for a long time, ironically, Joe Pa and Coach Bobby Bowden, they were competing for who had the most wins all time, individual coaches. That's a peer school, and they are not happy when they're a school that loses a couple of games. So what would that make you? So is Florida State in a better spot with the administration part as well as what they think they should do? Yes or no with Penn State? Ohio State, there's no thinking there. That's a hell no. That's the best program in college football. They're doing it right. Not a chance. Michigan, this one's interesting because I think they're in some trouble. They barely beat Northwestern today, who, by the way, I don't even know the name of the head coach. Shout out to him. He's done a pretty good job there with limited talent. They needed a last-second field goal to beat Northwestern. Not a good sign. It's year 2 for Sherrone Moore. I think he's in over his head. Good coach. He's not ready for the Michigan job. They're going to stumble and bumble around. That's going to be weird because of the Bryce Underwood thing. I'm not sure that's going to work out well. But I would still personally rank them ahead of Florida State. At least they're putting money into their program and whatnot. They're not light years ahead of Florida State, though, because they could be in the fire mode next year if things don't turn around. We'll see. Notre Dame, obviously one of the best programs in college football. Conservatively, right now, I'd say top 5 because of how good their head coach is, how much they've donated to put in the money and all that. They're loading up. If anybody's even considering Florida State in the same stratosphere as Notre Dame right now, check yourself. That's not realistic. Nebraska, I added this one. This is a program that's no longer a national title contender. Used to be. But they're dumping money in like crazy to that program in every way possible. Being creative, etc. Penn State was thinking about hiring Rule. He's a Penn State grad, for those who don't know. And what happened? They extended. Cash. They're in a better spot in some ways than Florida State. You could argue that one's probably the hardest because I still think where they're located, it's not sustainable there. In today's world, I just don't think they get enough players. But it shows you, again, money matters. Florida State's got to find more money. That's not any nice way to say it, but it's true. Oregon, no. Florida State is not in a better spot. But here's the irony. Again, this is a money thing. Their location is dreadful, and they're doing better. So having the world's greatest booster does matter. But they also hired a great coach. They went out and hired an assistant under Kirby's wing. Note, I keep talking about Glenn Schumann. I'd be perfectly fine if Florida State hired Glenn Schumann. So, yes, Oregon is in a better spot than Florida State. I'm sure everybody knows that. USC, this one's interesting. I think Lincoln Riley is the most overrated coach in college football, and I have said it for years. How do you rank them? They got a great recruiting class. They're dumping $1 gazillion in because they got some rich boosters. But do you buy Lincoln Riley? And here's why I bring it up. For those that don't know, his contract, it's not public because USC is a private institution. You can't look up the details. It's still astronomical from what I'm told for somebody that's close to that program. Are they in a better spot? Like his contract's way higher than Mike's. Mike's is over 50. Ugh. That's awkward. They won today. They beat Iowa. They're a good team, but they can't beat their rival, Notre Dame. UCLA sucks. You can't really measure them against that. And they just can't win away from home. They play at Oregon next week. They're probably going to get blitzed. Let's see what USC does. But while I think they're better than Florida State, I don't think that program's going anywhere. It's ironic. They're a really weird team to figure out. Oklahoma, they just beat Bama on the road. They're the two teams, Florida State and Oklahoma, ironically, that are both winners against the Alabama Crimson Tide this year. Oklahoma also recently won at Tennessee. They've got some other good wins this year. And while they haven't been perfect, they're a squad that just, quite honestly, they're tiptoeing around heading in the right direction. I don't know how you rank Oklahoma because their offense was dreadful today. They got outgained by 194 yards, but they did win the turnover battle 3-0. Are they in a better spot than Florida State? No. Because they were teeter-tottering a couple weeks ago on, like, if they'd have lost to Tennessee, the firing squad stuff would have been talked about because their fan base is bananas. But I think they're ahead now because they might make the playoff. That's how thin a line it is. They're kind of like Penn State. Either we go to the playoff or you got to go. Is Florida State's administration in that boat? What do you say? Texas playing against, I don't know what the score is. I don't know what the final was. They were getting smoked against Georgia late. They got out coached today and all that. But with their resources, having Sark, how close would you, I mean, it's obviously they're not as good as Texas as a program. Is Florida State not as far away as we think if they hire the right coach? I think it'd be pretty quick because Sark didn't do a very good job this year. O-line didn't perform. Their defense is good. But the receiver group, probably not considering what they had with money. In a year or so, Florida State might be up there with them. Texas is still ahead for now, though. Another really interesting one is LSU, a program that, quite honestly, you had a great chance against in a lot of different ways because you beat them recently on the field, etc., to kind of move away. They fired their coach. Lord only knows who they're going to go after. But it's interesting to bring up Florida State situation for the following reason. Is Florida State concerned about getting rid of Norvell because LSU's another major job that's open? LSU doesn't care what other jobs are open. The way they look at their program, the way they want to dump money in, his contract is very similar to Norvell's. They didn't care. They got rid of it. For that reason, I say LSU is ahead. What do you say and why? Comment down below. Ole Miss, they kind of scratched and clawed to beat Florida today, but they won. The thought that Ole Miss is better than Florida State is mind-blowing. But their administration has built it up. Give them credit. They're in a better spot than Florida State right now. And they should never be in the conversation for winning titles and all that stuff. Florida State doesn't have Lane Kiffin, though. They might have had an opportunity if they'd have done it differently a few years ago, but that's water under the bridge. Okay, it is what it is. Bama, you beat them this year at your place. Beat them convincingly. But they're still probably going to be in the playoff. That's another one. Obviously, you're not better than. I think Norvell, well, he's probably going to get fired, and I certainly hope so. DeBoer, by the way, this is just a side note. It's obvious they have a better program overall than Florida State. If they lose to Auburn in a couple of weeks, that's going to get real interesting. Just throwing that out there. Can't really fire him at 9-3 year two, but their fan base is not mentally stable when it comes to losing to Auburn like that. I live in Auburn. It'd be hilarious, but just throwing that out there. Speaking of Auburn, I don't think Florida State is concerned with what Auburn's doing, but they could potentially, now that the Auburn job is open and Hugh Freeze has been canned, they could go after Summerall. And the betting odds favor Summerall getting the job. He's the head coach at Tulane. He's somebody that I think Florida State has either already contacted, whatever. There's going to be something there. Maybe somebody off his staff. There's a lot of connections. He's coached in the state of Alabama. He's from Texas, played at Kentucky. He's recruited all around the same areas that Florida State does. He'll get a call. So I don't think Auburn's in a very good spot. That program has been mismanaged horrifically, but they have spent. They got a pretty good roster. They've recruited well. Are they better than Florida State? Their roster is defensively and all that. It's more balanced, but they've mismanaged offense so bad. I don't think it's that much. Within 5 minutes of hiring the right coach, Florida State could pass Auburn. It's ironic. The Florida Gators, the team that I'll give them credit today. Hats off to the Gators. They played hard. They led for quite a bit of the game against Ole Miss, but they let Billy Napier come back this year. If they don't get Kiffin, I'm just going to make this statement now. If they don't get Kiffin, Florida State will leapfrog them because I don't think they're going to get anybody else that's an elite coach. That's my guess. And I trust Florida State to do a better job than I do Florida. I don't trust their administration at all with football making decisions. How poorly they've mismanaged the whole Napier thing is even worse than what Florida State's done. Now, by being clear, I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying Florida State has done a good job with Norvell. They have not. But I don't blame them for giving him the contract because that's what every school in the country would have done after winning 13 games. It's just true. It is just carte blanche how it works. Everybody gets mad about it. It's just the way that works. Florida would have done the same thing. Miami, Georgia, anybody else, whatever. But if they don't get Kiffin, even if Florida State got Summerall or anybody else like that, they got Golish. I have no idea who it'll be. Buster Faulkner from Georgia Tech, whatever. They'll pass Florida. How ironic, as much as I hammer Norvell, am I saying that Florida State could pass Florida pretty quickly? And I don't care who wins the game this year. It's not meaningless because it's a game. These are teams going anywhere this year, so it doesn't matter that much. That's going to be very interesting to see how that shakes out with Lane Kiffin and the Gators. Miami, they can't win big games because they don't do well on game day. Some of their preparation's too conservative with run the ball into the ground. Mario Cristobal is the head coach, but their roster's awful good. They dump a ton of money into NIL. They're ahead of Florida State. I think everybody knows that. But how much is it? I have actually a very difficult time defining that. So that while that's an extra question, and obviously Miami's a peer institution, I don't think they're that far ahead of Florida State because I don't think Mario is a very good game day coach. He's one of the worst in major college football. If you hire a good tactical coach, even at a talent disadvantage for a year or two, Florida State could beat Miami home or away. That's just something you got to deal with if you're a Miami person as it relates to having Cristobal. He loves the place, but he's not a great game day guy. And then finally, Clemson. I have no idea what's going on there. They won Friday night, 20-19 over Louisville. They're playing hard, but they're losing their quarterback. Do we really think that Dabo Swinney made the right coaching calls, coordinators? Maybe, maybe not. Playing hard's one thing, but like you can run on them, and they got 3 guys minimum in their front 7 they're going to play in the NFL. They got cracks. That's another program like Florida. I think if you hire the right coach at Florida State, you can run right by Clemson because Dabo's the most stubborn guy in college football. Being more stubborn than Kirby Smart is hard. Very hard. Dabo did it. Lastly, just going to throw this in with an asterisk because it's only year 2. Indiana. As long as Cignetti's there, they're a team that can compete. They're ahead of Florida State, but I don't expect that to last. I'm an Indiana grad. I'm not a fool. They're probably not going to get another coach like him. That's one of the weirdest things in history of college football, whatever. And for those that are curious, why didn't I bring up Texas Tech? This is the first year they've been good. They got to be good for just like Indiana. It's got to take a while for me to say that. I need to see what they do. Can they keep coaches around? Like nobody really wants to live in Lubbock from what I'm told. I'm not a Texas guy, but I'm told that's not a very great place. Let's see what they do, but it is what it is. And finally, Tennessee, they're a good program. I think they've done a good job. They're more stable than Florida State, but I kind of wonder if they plateaued. I'd put them in the Florida, Miami category. Florida State hires the right coach, they can go right by Tennessee. I need to see them take another step. They got Faison Brandon coming in, a great quarterback recruit, great kid, too, just super kid out of North Carolina, 5-star kid. But are they going to, make a move with a freshman? Are they going to go to the portal again? Is Aguilar coming back? Like, there's a lot of questions there. I don't think Tennessee's in a great spot, but they're not bad either. I think they're going to be more that 9-3, 8-4 team, which Josh Heupel's a good coach, but that league's hard. And they play Bama every year. They play Georgia every year. Good luck. So I think that's another program Florida State could go by. What do you think? Now, As for the comments, if you've got any comment about any of those teams, those are the programs that can win it as a general rule. Outside of something else, like Georgia Tech, sorry, I don't see it. Washington's been in it a few times, but yeah, I don't see it. Wisconsin's not on that level. Michigan State's fallen off. I know I didn't miss anybody else that's a true contender. BYU's, I don't think they're winning a title. They're not. I don't consider them peer. The Big 12 in general, Arizona State might have a little bit. Oh, A&M. I forgot A&M. Absolutely better than Florida State right now. By the way, what a great comeback for them. They were down 30-3 at half and won. I think it's pretty clear that A&M and their money, and they've got a real coach. They're better than Florida State right now, and that's going to be a hard one to pull away from. That's top 10 program. So with that, here's an interesting topic. I'd love to see why. Pierced by Love says, Mike isn't getting fired! Exclamation point. Why? Why do you think that? What makes you say? I mean, I can say that I'm getting $1 million tomorrow. Why? Why do you say Mike isn't getting fired? Mike Dinkinger, Alford has to be getting no sleep these days. Amen to that. He won't. Based on what? Why would you say it? Back it up. Give me hard evidence as to why Norvell won't be fired. And I don't think the money thing is the deal. Knowles 24/7 has already kind of ruined that narrative. If you don't know about that, I'm not going to go through it. Go read the article. Spend the money, get the subscription, go read the article. That it's not as much money as we originally thought. It can be done. Zachariah Pochel. Y'all listen to Brian. Yeah, and here's what he's talking about. Fire Mike Norvell. Get him the hell out of here. Don't wait. Samuel Gibson. I watched the podcast where Jordan Travis and his brother were talking. With Jordan Travis said he went to the game, but because of how the fans are treating Mike Norvell, he said he decided not to. That's fine. That's a personal thing because Norvell believed in him. I have no problem with that. But it is what it is. CP, they won, and I still want Norvell fired. You and I are on the same page. Mike Merrick, what's up, Mike? The people that make these decisions are the only ones who matter. That is a fact. Let me define something because Mike brings up a really good point here. This is pivotal. People that matter. Administrators, so BOT, president, AD, those are obvious. People in the athletic department, even assistant coaches, people in the back office, everybody talks officially and a lot of unofficially. That's how it works at all these ADs that they go around, they gather information. Do you believe in the coach? Do you want to help us? Like if you work in the recruiting staff, they got to be asked, like, do you believe in this? Because if you don't, you can't sell recruiting. And that's the lifeblood of Florida State and every other college football program. And you can use that with the academic staff and everything else. But the key here is still the boosters. It's not one thing to get rid of the coach and be happy. It's twofold. You have to be happy with the next person you brought in. And does it match? This is something I have no idea. It's a little bit of potluck. Every school has to deal with this. The administration is going to want coach and fill in the blank, whoever it is, or coach A and coach B. Do the boosters agree enough to spend top dollar? That is awkward because I have no idea. Every school, Florida's boosters, they all want, it's kind of universal, it seems like. They want Kiffin, so they know. Who would Florida State want? And again, will the people that can really shell out the bucks, will they go all in and fill in the blank? Because I don't even know who the top candidate would be. I have no idea. Usually I would know, but right now there's not an obvious name for Florida State. It's just kind of the way it works. Would they go top dollar if LSU wanted to match? If Penn State wanted to match? If Auburn wanted to match? Because these schools got cash. The schools I just mentioned, they all got cash in some way, shape, or form with big, big donors. To put it in perspective, Penn State stadium renovation, like Florida State's was around $200 million. You know what Penn State's was? You ready for this? $700 million. And they still fired their coach. You think Penn State's got some cash? It's not easy here. Christopher Kirby. Done listening until you find new material. At this point, you're just negative recruiting against the program you support. Bye, Chris. See you, bro. Zachariah. CP Teptic. Thank you. Let's see. Noel Nation, 1993. He will lose next 2 games. I mean, it's possible. Pierce by Love, 7-5, and Norvell is still alive. Based on what? You think that they're going to do that? You think even lower the administration than most of the people in the chat? That's not a very high bar to clear. V-Dub, why is it so hard for some people to accept he is not a good coach? I'm not sure. I couldn't answer that. Everybody's got their opinion. I think part of it is just natural bias, but beyond that, I really couldn't tell you. Malik Stuckey, Brian, I've been watching for a long time, but bro, we as fans don't need negativity and win, bro. And sad, my guy. Look, I did the whole first segment on the game. The only thing that really matters is getting rid of Norvell. There's just no way around it. If you don't want to listen to the reality, I'm not making you stay. Norvell has to be fired. That's it. Let's see. Noel Nation 93. Preach. Yeah, I'm going to. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Niners in command. I see 5-7. Now we will lose Friday to NC State and Florida. And sadly, Norvell is back as we will miss out on Franklin. Back to Norvell for another 6-6 season at best. Man, you think I'm negative for anybody in the chat. Niners in command is, wow. Doesn't think very highly of it at all. Zuppo the God. Honest question. Why doesn't Mike get the same flack Jimbo did for the horrible staff members? That's a good question. The staff is way better than it was last year, though. Let's be honest. Way better. I'd argue that the biggest problem, not a Florida State caliber staff in years. I don't know what the reason for that would be. Mike Merrick. We are not fake fans because we want to see the Noles win. That is fact. Rock and roll. What's going on, Jeremy? If we move on from Mike, I hope we do a thorough search. Amen to that. Juan Manuel. Brian thinks Morbo has improved from a tune. They have improved, but he should be fired. If he beats Florida, Norvell will save his job. I don't know about that. It's not a great time to look for a head coach. Too many schools seeking a good coach. Let's see. This is an interesting point. Mike Merrick, we don't care about Virginia Tech at all. No, most people don't. And if you do and you don't want to hear me talk about Norvell getting fired, you can leave. I'm not going to lie to anybody. That's what the topic is every day until he's gone. In some way, shape, or form. I said it over a month ago. Every day, in some way, shape, or form, Locked On Seminoles will have coaching news every single day. A coaching candidate, what's going on with Norvell, the buyout, other teams compared to Florida State. That's what people want to talk about. And for those that can't handle it, I get it, but that's what it's going to be here. Every other person I've talked to in some capacity covering the beat, that's the only thing they want to talk about too. They're done covering the team. Like, there's nothing objective to talk about. There's just not. Antoine Jackson, 1986. Will we make a bowl? I think it's 50-50. I mean, they got 2 games, so technically that's accurate as well. But, like, for those that didn't watch, I watched a little of the Miami-NC State game. NC State did not show up at all. I had heard for quite a while that the head coach at NC State's going to step down. I'm guessing that's spiraled, and a lot of those guys are getting in the portal. NC State is going to be a dumpster fire. Florida State can win that game next week, but I don't think they'll win at Florida. If they win, it's just next Friday. Rock and roll. Everyone smash that like button. Thank you very much, sir. Truly appreciate it. Like and subscribe. Noel Nation 93. NC State lost to Miami, and FSU will lose to NC State and Florida. That would be sad. Mr. Pisces 8243. Looks like we are going to miss out on James Franklin. Let's see. Rock and roll. It could be a smokescreen from Sexton, but yes, possibly. We have to make a home run hire. No more G5 coaches. That has not gone well, blah, blah, blah. Let me be real clear. Mr. Josh Johnson says this. Got to have a home run. There is no home run hire for Florida State this year. Who would that candidate even be? It's not going to be Kiffin, and he's the one home run hire in the coaching search realm. Ryan Day ain't coming. Marcus Freeman ain't coming. There is no home run hire. Who would the candidate even be? All the guys that people talk about are attached to their alma mater, or they're just really a great fit, like Freeman is at Notre Dame. He converted to Catholicism, for crying out loud. He's not leaving Notre Dame. Do you think the I forget the guy's name, the head coach at Arizona State is leaving? It's his alma mater. His wife's mother lives a couple doors down, and his sister lives a few doors down from that. He just built a house and feed. Like, there are no great coaches that are coming. It's going to be G6 coordinators and guys that are up and comers, lower level P4, etc., that are getting jobs. This is not a good year for coaching search. It just is what it is. Sucks for me to cover because I'm guessing as much as y'all, but I'm honest. Mike Dinkinger, agree with Brian on the reset in December assumption. Look, I'll say it again, man. I'm talking, I think what Mike's talking about here. Those practices, you got to reset it. Like, we got to find out who wants to be at Florida State. Those practices need to be hard from the outset, physical, because the guys that are thinking about going to the portal, even if they say otherwise, this is the easy way to find out. Day one of practice for the bowl game, it's all in, bro. Oklahoma drill, the whole nine. The guys that don't want to be there, they'll opt out. Bye. See ya. You've got to know for the next head coach. There's no shortcut. If Norvell stays for 26, I'm out and the most of the boosters from what I am told. Yeah, I think so too. I agree. That's one of the better posts of the day, by the way. Thank you very much. Mike Dinkinger. I am not sure we hold on to Danzy, but not going to hold my breath. I sure hope we hold on to Danzy, but I'm not going to hold my breath. Let me just give my background on Danzy here. Tallahassee kid, had the chance to cover him when he was in high school. Great guy, pretty low-key personality. I asked him why Florida State, and he said just wanted to play at Florida State, be close to family and home. His second pick was Florida. You know, he's just kind of a local guy. Well, he ain't going to transfer to Florida, I don't think. And track's very important to him. He's got a good track program at Florida State. He's comfy. I don't think he's going anywhere. That's just my opinion. He'll get offers, though. Jay Corner. Why do we do so much rotating on both sides of the ball, especially at running back? It makes no sense. I have no idea. Florida State's running back room is wild. It's a great question. I have no idea. Completely agree, says Mike Dinkinger in regards to the comment from Jeff Corner about all the running backs rotating. I have no idea. CP Teptic. Sorry, Brian got called for a fake fan. I was replying to that. Oh, no worries, man. I wasn't sure what that was talking about. I must have missed that in the chat. My apologies. Contusion 1. Is it just me, or does this defense always look like they're playing with 9 against 11? Our lines on both sides of the ball are soft, in my opinion. They miss a lot of run gap fits on defense, man. Antoine Jackson. I made 3 bets with a buddy of mine. Knowles wins 7 games or more, has a better record than Florida, and beats Florida head-to-head. It's going to be interesting. It's going to come down to the wire there, bro. Neither program's where they want to be, that much I do know. Neither Florida nor Florida State is anywhere in stratosphere where they want to be. Zuppa the God. Most quarterbacks and OC do avoid the middle, but Gus did same at Auburn with Cam and at UCF. Well, Cam is 6'6". I've stood next to him. That's a big dude, and he's Cam. He's pretty smart. Some of the guys at UCF, they ran a lot more screens than they do here. They had different players, but they never had great passing quarterbacks at UCF, and that, for the most part, wasn't ACC comp either. Fire Mike, he trash. Zachariah. That's hilarious. He is not very good. Parabellum, what's up, man? Question, does Alford know that recruiting will be a big pile of dung if they retain Norvell for 26? If he doesn't, he's failing his job. He could watch this podcast. No, it'll be awful. It'll be terrible. Who would be a good fit for Florida State as head coach for next year? That's a great question. Again, John Summerall from Tulane has a lot of ties to the South. He recruits the I-10 corridor. He's coached at Troy. He's coached at Tulane. He's coached in the SEC. Like he played at Kentucky. I think he would be the easiest fit from some of the G5s, along with Golish. He's coached at UCF. He's coached at USF. Obviously, means he knows Florida. And he was part of Heupel's staff at UT. He's an offensive guy. That's a possibility. But the two I've talked about the most are the Georgia defensive coordinator. He's really good. He just gave Sarkisian fits again today. Just Georgia outplayed Texas handedly. And then Georgia Tech's offensive coordinator, Buster Faulkner. Those are some. But again, there is no home run hire that has that fit for anywhere in college football this year, really, that's perfect. Even Kiffin to Florida, it's not like he's a Florida grad. And there is no even remote good fit for Florida State, like that direct tie, even as like a coordinator or whatever. It's just, there's not. I have no idea where they're going to go because there's so many other outliers. Who hires first, preference for not the coach, but their wife. Like, let me be honest here. The wife thing is huge with these coaching searches, and you have zero control over it. None. There are several jobs that don't end up happening because the wife says no. That is fact. That is not my opinion. So, like, some of this stuff, you're just not in control, and it's so random. Jim Mandel. I am an old Bobby Bowden fan, so I pay casual attention to Florida State, even though I'm a Wisconsin football parent. So many P4 coaching openings, too much competition for coaches in the cycle. Maybe that's why. I'm sure that's a consideration. Like, this is not a good one, but I think we're to the point where just about every year, because it's imperative that every school in the P4 wins. That's not mathematically possible. Obviously, we're going to have big coaching carousels moving forward. I don't know if it'd be quite as big as this one. So your point's still valid, but I don't think it's going to be very friendly. Let's see. What's up with the God? As I stated earlier, Mike is 3-13 in the last 16 ACC games. By the way, that's terrible. We aren't better than UConn at this point. Oh, God. Oh, by the way, I saw this stat. Somebody posted this on X. And with the win today, I don't think it's the same. But until today, when the Noles knocked off Virginia Tech, UConn over the last 2 seasons had more wins against ACC opponents than the Florida State Seminoles. That is disgusting. They beat Duke last week, and I don't know who the other two are, but Jim Moore Jr. is the head coach up there. He's a good coach. For that to even be in the discussion is a problem, a bad problem. Let's see here. So instead of coaching changes, invest in literally everything else. NIL, facilities, assistants, general managers, all to take tasks off the head coach. Experiment. That's one way you could do it. But that's what Florida did this last year. How'd that go for them this year? Yeah. It starts at the head coach, man. That's the problem. And it's very hard. It really is. Zuppo the God. I don't think we could pull a coach from a top West Coast program. Taggart was an outlier. Florida State was his dream job, although Mario and did the same thing. Yeah, if you have somebody that has a tie to the school that's an alum or is a fan, that's different. To my knowledge, Florida State doesn't have that opportunity in this cycle. If I'm wrong, somebody throw it out there. I don't think so. Like Dillingham was at Florida State, but like he's an ASU grad and he's at his alma mater. Like, how's it going to work, you know? Antoine, I think we could be in the playoff hunt in the next year or two. Just my opinion. It's not out of the question. The right head coach, the portal can hit. I mean, Mike hit in the portal. Do we really think Mike's a great coach? It is possible. Jim Mandel. The current environment is so different. No one really has a handle on how to run these programs. Everyone is learning. Very true. Great post. Great post. Zuppo the God. Apparently, LSU is trying not to pay Kelly, so maybe that job is less appealing with that governor, and they're trying not to pay Kelly. Here's the backstory on that. They're trying to buy him out for X amount of dollars for what he's owed. It's 50-something. It's a lot of money. You can pay him a lump sum, and he could get it all at once. They offered him less than half. Now, he just turned that down. They're trying to save. But if they don't, it's $800,000, give or take a month for a long time. That's a lot. That is a lot. It's for just over 4 years. That's rough. Let's see. Zuppo, LSU, Arkansas, Florida, Auburn, all open already. I think the only reason Mike hasn't been fired already is that they have a replacement pretty much lined up. Possible. Jerome Williams, Mike has done so bad. The college football world looks at us like we never won anything. It's embarrassing. I like Mike, but he's got to go. Jermaine, could not agree more. Xavier Knowles, did you see the report saying that James Franklin hasn't accepted the VT job because he's waiting to see what Florida State does? Wonder if he's already had some conversations with Florida State. I don't know if he's interested, but the agents are always trying to, this is how they do it. They're always trying to gauge interest, not just for their client directly, but when they talk about Florida State with Franklin, after they talk to Florida State, hey, would you be interested? You're the conduit. That also impacts assistants, etc. The more the wheel spins, the more the agents make. So I'm sure there's some kind of conversation, but is it Norvell, is it James Franklin that wants it, or is it the agent? That's the important part, and I have no idea. That stuff gets very, very touchy. Josh Strickland. Brian, love your show. Went to the game tonight, and we still are terrible with the run gaps. We easily could have put up 50 spot on them. It was awesome to see Pritchard at the stadium. That part's cool. By the way, for those who don't know, Pritchard got out of the hospital the other day. I was like, whoa, that's amazing after being shot in the head. Zuppo, only names that are winners or big recruiters are Franklin. Looks like he's Virginia Tech bound. Jimbo and Ed Orgeron. So if y'all want a big name, you're going to have to look past big flaws or Jimbo's past. Yeah, there's not a lot of fit here, man. Josh Johnson. James Franklin would be a home run. He can recruit at an elite level, knows how to build a program for the long term. And again, Jimbo would work under the right situation with him not calling plays. Jimbo's calling plays, brother. Jimbo's ego is way too big. He has never given up play calling duties. Not going to happen. One more here, and I'll wrap it up. Zuppo, I'm a big Willie Fritz fan. Liked him at Tulane, and he's got Houston rolling. He'd be a great coach. I don't think he wants to leave Houston, but I think Florida State would do well if they hired him for a few years. I do. I really do. With that being stated, thank everybody for stopping into the live stream. Appreciate you coming in. It has been a wild day of college football. I'm going to go watch a little more. I'm going to post this to the main feed on YouTube and on audio. Appreciate you stopping in. This has been Locked On Seminoles post-game report. Everybody have a good one.